Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Best Access. This is their part number AD502D. This is a digital calibration gauge is what it is. This is a micrometer, and it is a extremely accurate way to measure the root depth of your key. Obviously other things as well, but this will be specifically used in the, well, it's used in two instances actually. And the primary instance would be if you were to, if you all have a AD433, a Combinator, which is the factory punch for originating keys in best systems by code, A2, A3, A4, premium, standard key blanks, different keyways. If you have to service that machine or calibrate it at all, and you are going to test the machine after you have changed a die, let's say, you would be able to use this micrometer to outrageous accuracy to know exactly where you are in terms of the process of calibration. You could also use it to simply, check the keys that you have here, that you have cut, and it is, probably far more accurate than necessary. It goes out to 5 decimal points to the right of the decimal sign. If we're getting down to the thousandths of an inch, that's certainly where we're going to stop. This will take it far beyond that naturally. So I use, I have my caliper that I use literally on a daily basis. It is, a caliper is the way to go. So this digital caliper is that, except just far more precise. And you would use it really when you're calibrating that sort of tool. But just to demonstrate how you might use it, how you would use it when you are going to check the calibration of your combinator, or just to use it to measure a key. And I'm going to go over the installation instructions in a moment. I have it at 0, okay? And I'm just simply going to open that up. And don't turn, the friction thimble is what this is called. Don't turn it too quickly. You can error the machine out. I've never done it. I've never tried to do it naturally. But there's no reason to try to spin that like a top. Okay, so I'm just going to open that up so you can see that I'm open to, about 3/8 of an inch here, right? Exactly 3/8 of an inch. And I'm going to place my key into the unit, and this is just probably an A keyway, and it's not even original Best. I'm sorry, Best. With the flat side of the key blank down. Okay, and I'm going to place it inside of here. See if I can demonstrate this reasonably on camera. Okay. Just going to kind of hold that there as I bring my friction thimble down into place. Let me get it to center on that cut. Obviously, I would normally be doing it, of course, holding it this way. I'll get it set in position, okay? So I'm coming up with 0.2288 is my root depth of this cut on that key blank, which would be the 6th cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th cut. Cut number 5 on that key is 0.2288. Let me take a look at that. Make sure that I've got it accurate. So I have no idea what that root depth is. I don't know what that cut is only because I don't have it memorized. So, yeah, 0.227, 0.228, something in that range. There we go. Q is a bit tipped. Yeah, so it's 0.228. Okay, and this has the ability, if you continue to tighten it, it will slip. It's got a clutch feature on it, so you're not going to over-tighten anything. 0.22895. .22895. I'm going to write that down. So in the fifth cut, we've got a .22895 root depth. Now root depth, I'm going to put this aside. Root depth measures the bottom of the blade to the bottom of the cut. You might say, well, that could be a best number whatever cut. Well, you're really talking about the length of the pin. The root depth is the effective plug diameter, you know, technically minus the length of the pin, and then you'll have the root depth. So when you're measuring a cut of a key, you can't measure from this top of the key blade, the top of the key blade that's no longer there. You can only measure the root depth. Now, let me use my, you know, trusty caliper here that I have, and when I measure that, okay, 0.228. Right on, actually. So the point of the matter is, this would be a tool that I would use on a daily basis, but it doesn't give me nearly the precision. I might argue that you don't need this precision when you're doing key work. You know, thousandths of an inch would be accurate, but I mean, how could you say no to a tool like this? I mean, ridiculously accurate. Now, let's talk about how to read it. You obviously have the digital readout. So probably the only buttons that you are going to use often will be when you take the tool down to zero it, to just make the measuring face, which is the tip of this, and I'm going to go over all the parts in a moment. When you bring that down carefully, okay, I have it at 0. Let's say, you know, let's just say that it wasn't at 0. You would literally hit the 0 button here, and that would bring it. Let's just do it now. Now we're at 0. Okay, I'm going to open it up and use it. Now, we were at 0.228, so I'm going to bring it back out. Now, as we're going through, watch the dial in comparison to the digital readout. Okay, we're at 0. Okay, let's 0 that. Okay, we're at 0. Let's get to 0.5 inch. Roughly, right? So it's over here at that large line, and as we open that up more, you're going to see, okay, there you go. So what we're seeing here, these graduation marks are 0, the little line, the longer line, the next little line, and then the 1 mark. 0, the next little line is 0.25. Well, it'd be a quarter, basically. Okay, it'd be 0.025 is what it would be. The next long line is 0.05. The next one is 0.075, and then we get to 0.1. Okay, so you can still use this manually as long as you understand how to read it. Now let's go back out open to 0.22895, which is what our cut was. Let's go to 0.2. Okay, so we're at basically 0.2. Then we're going to go just shy. We're at 0.228. So not just shy, we're going to go just heavy on that small line that is about to appear here. There it is. You know, it would be right there. The first little line. Okay? And I'd make that go to 0. The 0 line that's right here. Let's get that camera focused. Okay, so we are reading 0.225, 0, basically, because I'm at the 2 mark. I'm at the next little line, which gives me an extra 0.025, and then I'm at 0 here, basically, okay, if I make that even. Well, we'll just continue on, 0.228. So we're going to open that. We need to open that up a little bit more. And now all that we're really doing is just reading these numbers here. So we're at 0.2250, 0.226, 227, 228. Okay, and that's on the little 3 that's there. And then you're really going to be just reading those fractions, you know, just the distance between those two numbers. Okay. It's obviously easy to 22895 is what we were at. So we're not going to be at 0.229, just shy of it. So 0.2 plus 0.025 plus the 3 that's over here, but we're not quite at 4 yet. So you can do some, you'll be able to read this manually, or you'll be able to read this, electronically as well. Let's define these parts on this, and I have to pull out the bigger hammer, so to speak. Okay, so the measuring face is our tip. That's what's called the measuring face. This is what's called the spindle. That's the measuring face. That's the spindle. This is the LCD display. This is the lock nut, which is very likely used in servicing the tool, which I see no reason to go there. This is what's called the graduated sleeve here. This is the graduated thimble here. This is the friction thimble. The shift hold button is here. You have the 0 and absolute 0 button. You have an output to data collection devices. This manufacturer has a way to allow you to output. And if I pulled that cap off, there'll be a 4-prong connector there. You've got the measurement hold button, which you can see. You have the inch millimeter conversion. Okay, we're obviously in imperial with this. Then you have the battery cover on the back. And there is a battery that's in there. And the part number I will give you shortly. It's a 3-volt battery. I'm going to turn... I'm going to press, I think it's press and hold the 0 button for about 5 seconds. Okay, it is not. Let's try the shift button. Okay, neither. Let's take a look at how we turn it off. I know that it auto shuts off, but let's see if there's an off button. So apparently there is no off button, but it does specifically state the automatic off after 30 minutes of no spindle movement. Any movement of the spindle will activate the display with no loss of position readings. You can 0 at any position, inch millimeter conversion, measurement hold button, ability to install minimum and maximum limits, push button to install any reading at any position. It has a 3-volt CR2450 battery. There is a spanner wrench that is included with this. I'm going to just carefully use the end of the spanner wrench to just turn that cover a little bit loose. And I'm going to pull that out and show you the battery. CR2450. It can only go back in one way. The shoulder has to be pointed towards the bottom, the positive side. Okay. Although there's only one way to put it back on because the cap won't go on any other way. So we'll carefully get that put back in place. This is not the right use for this spanner wrench, but I'm not turning it even remotely. Okay, so I put the battery back in. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, replacing the battery will result in the CAL, and that's going to just time out in 0. and it's going to turn off the display. It was a battery change is what I did. Any movement on the spindle is going to bring that back to operating condition. And obviously at this point we would bring the spindle down so that the measuring face zeros. Then obviously we're going to zero the unit out. Okay, now we're ready to measure. Let's see if there's anything else to tell you about this. 30-minute time off, as I had said. And the micrometer does come with it. That output, should, for your application, call for it. Ours does not. The installation instructions, which are included, will talk to you about precautions, operating instructions. The tool comes with the battery installed. The battery will show a dim reading when the battery is getting weak. To change the battery, refer to the installation replacement of battery. We've demonstrated that. Fasten the micrometer head to an appropriate machine or device. It's already, it's already attached to a fixture here. Make sure the measuring face is clean. Use the friction thimble as we had demonstrated earlier. We talk about setting limits. You're not going to measure anything bigger than a key. If you were to use this for other applications, the installation instructions, which are included, will allow you to go through that. Okay, so let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at some of the supporting documentation. Okay, so this is the item that we're looking at here. Currently, this shows the manual version. By the time you're seeing this, we'll most likely have the actual images of the digital version. The new key combinator calibration gauge, manual or digital, is designed to be used with the AD433 and AD433P key combinators. It can be used for normal combinator inspection and adjustments, or for calibrating the combinator after changing carriages. So, yeah, you're using it to calibrate your machine. You're also using it to, check your cuts when you're conducting the normal business of locksmithing. Each gauge comes complete with detailed instructions for use. That's true. Now, some supporting documentation. Product brochure. This is an overview of the service equipment from Best. Combinator, capping press, pinning kit are shown here. Key gauge, micrometer. This is a capping press, capping block, capping pin, ejector pin, tweezers. Not to point out the obvious, but this would be the document where you would research other pieces and parts that you need. And we've sold much of the material in here. Stamps, stamp sets. 3/32 and 1/16 of an inch are available. Factory approved lubrication for cylinders. Very important to use the material as prescribed. Key marking plate. Set this up if you're going to be doing a tremendous amount of these at once. The ability to mark the face of a cylinder. Well, not the face, but the cylinder in a concealed location. Or possibly the face. Yeah, it could certainly be the face. A single key blank you can do here as well. A bit more capacity you can do here with the AD502D marking plate. Graphite gun. I'm just scrolling back up to see if there's more conversation required. The capping press is a tool, and we just sold one about a month ago. If you are doing best cores and you're doing them with any frequency, sooner or later you'll need to look at this capping press because it allows you to cap all 5 or 6 or 7 of your chambers at one time. And it does so in a very smart, quick, and easy way. It's an awful picture, but this here, the capping block, is this black splat right here. And you can search our site for CD517 and see that additional information. As we scroll through, locksmithing accessories, aids for locksmithing, installation accessories are here. A template for drilling the through bolt holes for grade 1 and grade 2 lever locks, cylindrical lever locks. A boring jig. I can tell you that this is not what the jig looks like now in 2020. I had bought one and they sent one from ProLock, so we sent that back to the factory because it's not this tool. So they're clearly using the ProLock tool. You know, other tools that you would use. This is a die if you have a problem with a lock case and you need to tap a hole for the standard 1 5/32, 32 threads per inch thread type. This is a tool that will allow you to do two things. It will allow you to install on this end the mortise cylinder housing or the shell into the mortise lock or the trim or whatever, and then you can turn it around and test the operation with this end to make sure that the lock works correctly. Okay. This will also, the AD502 allows you to, you know, work a lock that does not have a core installed. Padlock parts, and that concludes the product brochure. The cut sheet is not much here. We've gone over pretty much everything. If you want the manual version, which will look like this, it's the AD502. If you want the digital, which we're doing here, it's an AD502D. I'm not sure why they put that D in parentheses, but it's just AD502D. There's also a link below this video to the instructions, and they go over, it's 2 pages, and they go over what I went over about reading the dial. And I've noticed that the manual is definitely different than the digital version, but we've demonstrated how to read it. And plus, because you have the digital version, teaching yourself how to read this would not take but a minute or two. When you study what's being read out in the LCD display compared to what you're doing on the gauge via the thimble. Okay, but you can read here how to do that. Okay, but it's used for testing your keys after you've done modification work to your Combinator. It's very likely that you can send the Combinator to Best to have them do the work. I doubt that they'll do the work. They'll send it to the manufacturer who makes the Combinator. But I've gone through these installation instructions. I'm familiar with the Combinators. I'm familiar with, you know, the die sets that you would eventually, which is the key carriage really, which you may replace. If you cut enough keys, you're going to wear out parts. And, you know, we just recently sold a key carriage to a school district because they've cut tens of thousands of keys. Things wear out, whether it be a key carriage or tires on your car. It all wears out. Okay, so more information. This service manual that's here is not the link below. I happen to have it open in the link to the manufacturer's page as seen here. Let's hop over to that page. That page will allow you to review not only all of the best products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the product catalog. But that service manual is right here, Best Access Service Manual. That is well over 1,000 pages, 1,358 pages of everything Best Access related, all of the locks, parts drawings, identifications, descriptions, definitions, instructions, etc. So when you call Best and ask for tech support, this is very likely the document that they are referring to. So before you call them, I've learned, check this document first because it's probably in here, the answer that you need. So very helpful there. If you are new to the world of Best, you'll want to read the A2 System Service Manual. That's going to teach you basically how to deal with, you know, the world of small format interchangeable core. It's a great document to get familiar with. There is also the quick reference to combinating Best cores. This is also underneath the lid of a common Best pinning kit. And this basically teaches you how to combinate small format. A2 is a specific, there are 3 systems from Best, A2, A3, and A4. They're all the same physical structure, except that the rules and the components you use are specific to each system. And the difference between the A2, A3, and A4 is basically how many change keys you can derive from a system. A2 is by far the most common. I've only encountered A2. A3 is discontinued at the factory because it was found to be faulty, and A4 is very much still serviced. I just don't have familiarity with it, but it's the same set of rules, meaning you just change some values. This 23 that's here, that's the A2 stack height. If you're doing an A4 system, you'd be working with a 14 stack height, and I think A3 was maybe 18 for the stack height. Key gauge, this is just literally, again, underneath the lid. So if you're getting into BEST, you'll want to familiarize yourself with this document as well. Other encyclopedic documents are here. For fun, the BEST 1921 patent is here. Shows what Frank Best patented at that time about a removable core. Very interesting that he has ball bearings here. It was not Frank Best that invented the use of ball bearings, and I don't know who did, but I know that it was championed by P.F. Corbin, maybe in about 1905, or maybe just before that, 1898. The reason ball bearings were used is because it allowed, it substantially decreased wear and tear between the key blank and the pin tumblers, because material science 125 years ago is not what it is today. So they would experience wear on the keys. You'd have nickel, silver, and brass being used together, and one would wear out the other. These ball bearings made it quite near frictionless to pull out and insert that key. And it was a Corbin, P.F. Corbin was doing it, and much, much older locks, I have come to learn, would have bearings, ball bearings in all the chambers. And as time went on, you would only see them really in, the rear chambers, because these are the chambers that get used all the time. You're not going to necessarily see them in all chambers. What I meant to say there was the front chambers will get used all the time. The rear chambers get used less naturally, or potentially less. Neat little fun fact there from Frank Best. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, in conclusion, if you're working with small format, if you're working with BEST specifically, what is quite true in the world of locksmithing is there seems to be a specific tool for every application. And then there are multiple tools for the same application, and you generally find that you prefer one over the other for a particular reason. You like a plug follower from such and such company because it works better for you. Having a caliper, having a micrometer, a calibration gauge. If you're going to have a AD502D Combinator, if you're a school district, the military, a hospital where you have thousands of locks, you're servicing those most likely in-house. You need to have the right tools, a capping press, a combinator, a way to be able to calibrate that tool as you're servicing it, etc. And the AD502D is part of that family of necessary products. Really great quality tool that we have here. Any questions on the AD502D digital calibration gauge or any other BEST product, please feel free to reach out to us. And by the way, that B-70574, you'll see that referenced in the service manual, in the BEST service manual. I don't know, part number, I don't know what they call that B- number, and versus the AD502. Actually, if we still have that document up, I'm going to pull up that table, and it's in the service manual. So as I search AD502, yeah, okay, so they say the AD502 or AD502D is the nomenclature, but the part number is this B-70574. They use the AD number in their literature. That's what I know it as. So the bottom line is I think they know what it is when they ship it. Any questions on this or any other BEST product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.